guys, so it's Wednesday, and Wednesday is comic book day. It hasn't been for a while because I've been dying inside, but I think that I'm finally ready to talk to you guys about some of the stuff that I've been reading while I've been in this reading slump, because comics were one of the things that I could still read because they're such a quick thing. Today I'm going to be talking about Descender, Volume 1. I think this comic would be great for any of you big sci-fi fans. There were definitely panels and images that I saw in this that reminded me of some of the shots that I've seen from things like Star Wars and Star Trek. It definitely takes some things from that, but it is its own story. It's, I think, paying homage in a way to the things that have come before and have influenced it without being a very repetitive story arc. That being said, it is the story of humans versus robots, which is a common trope in science fiction. The thing that makes this different, I think, is that it is the story of a little robot who wants to find his brother. He's a companion bot, a bot created to watch over children and be their friend, which I think I've heard of only once before this in a science fiction setting. I'm not super well read in that way, but it is a story that I find more interesting than the usual just following a bunch of fighters and what's going on in the two different realms and whether you think one group is right or the other faction. Because you're following Tim this whole time, you are sympathetic to the robots and what's going on to them, but at the same time you can understand why the alien races and the human races are kind of terrified of them. The biggest thing for me when it came to this comic was the art style, and I am very much a person who's a fan of really artistic style versus the more commercial stuff that you will find in Marvel and DC's work. A lot of the things that come out of Image have very different art styles. They're still taking their panel recommendations and sometimes their color recommendations from that commercial style, but they're using something differently. We all know how I love Greg Tocchini's art, which is very detailed and very vibrant. This, on the other hand, is kind of muted. It's a very pale color scheme, and part of that is because it's watercolor. The whole thing is done in watercolor. Usually comics are done with digital painting, because that's just a faster, and you can upload the artist's original sketch and then basically paint bucket in a bunch of colors in the spaces that need it and then move on, whereas this artist had to do the drawing and the coloring, and then that had to be copied into the book. For me, that's worth it. It's definitely way more work and probably takes longer and is more expensive, but when you get something like this that is such a beautiful object, it's something that I want to buy and own. This comic definitely reminded me a little bit of Guardians of the Galaxy. You get this ragtag team of people who are half of this faction and half of this faction and just sort of thrown together based on circumstances, and some of them are more competent than others. It doesn't have the humor that Guardians of the Galaxy has. It's definitely a very dark story. You want it to be happy, but at the same time, I can see that this is going to be a story that doesn't pull its punches. It's definitely going to be like, this is the world they live in, and it's not going to be made light of. There are some humor bits in certain things, but for the most part, it's almost verging on horror, and science fiction and horror have really great grounds to overlap, so I'm excited about that. I definitely recommend this one if you like science fiction, if you like art, if you want to try something new that isn't a superhero comic. It is a good story, but it does sort of have that team element if you're like a fan of the team dynamics in superhero stories. If you're a fan of child protagonist stories, all of these things are definitely present here, and I feel like it's a strong story being told. I haven't picked up the second volume yet, but I am excited to do so. We shall see what I think of that one. It may take me a while to get it because they're mildly extensive, not super extensive, a little bit extensive, and I did just get fired from one job. So maybe we'll see. Who knows what happens. Alright guys, that's all I have for you today. We'll talk to you later. Bye!